Greetings, internet world. You're in the Beat Sessions, your place for all things music. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. Let's talk about Portugal the Man and their record, Shish. They released that on November 7th. This is studio album number 10 for the indie rock outfit, led by John Gurley, and their follow-up to 2023's Chris Black Changed My Life, which was the last album the band released through Atlantic Records. They signed with the label back in 2010, and while I think the decision was a great move for them at the time and for a long time, there's no denying that the relationship had run its course. I think the band's last 4 records released with the label are enjoyable, exploring a versatile array of styles within the foundation of John's creative lens. And the success of Woodstock and the single Feel It Still made the band a household name and even won them a Grammy. However, when examining the band's early independent work, it's impossible to ignore the fact that the releases with Atlantic Records seem rather pedestrian, catered to a radio-friendly sound and structured in kind of a safe manner. It wasn't that they were being boxed in stylistically, I'd say, but rather the adventurous nature of John's songwriting abilities was limited. He's the type of fearless artist that fully embraces any trajectory that his creative impetus steers him toward. And I think the time was right to take the band back into the independent arena. John started his own label, Knick, working in conjunction with the Nashville-based company 30 Tigers, and after listening to Shish, I am convinced that there's no way he could have ever presented this project to Atlantic and have expected them to release it. This album is a high-energy, blistering exercise of in-your-face rock and roll that's as unpredictable as it is inventive for the band. It's far from radio-friendly, and that's what makes it so damn exciting. The type of record that I think most people in this fan base have been hoping for over a decade now, showcasing why the band garnered so much attention during those early years. Shish is a successful next step for the band that has so much potential to capitalize on their newfound freedom, creating massive dividends for a fan base that finds excitement in knowing that there will be something new with every single project, and that unpredictability has a new lease on life with this band. John co-produced the record with Kane Rashat, the band's former drummer who played on Evil Friends, the Atlantic release that I think probably most resembles the style of Shish. Kane went on to work with Miley Cyrus, Group Love, and Phoebe Bridgers, among others, and he returns with a wealth of experience and phenomenal energy behind the drum kit. The album marks one of the smallest collaborative efforts in the band's catalog, with John and Kane hunkering down in John's new home studio and playing pretty much every note on this record, but I think their focused creative chemistry plays a big part in why the record is so immersive. Kyle O'Quinn handles the string arrangements, while Danny Bell, Nick Reinhardt, and John's wife Zoe also contribute as songwriters and players on the record. It's an album that is unpredictable. 10 complex arrangements that are equally as strong in their singularity as they are in finding continuity with one another, combining punk and metal with indie folk, glam rock, funk, baroque pop, and psychedelia, all within an experimental framework. The production is quite unique on this one, blending elements of lo-fi and hi-fi together while navigating a terrain of calm, breezy jams that can morph into chaotic, face-melting guitars and propulsive percussion at any moment. It's perhaps the heaviest album the band has released to date. This unexpected movement between serenity and pandemonium is the perfect device, I'd say, to reflect the album's themes as well. Shish is an album that celebrates John's upbringing in Alaska, a vast frontier that's as awe-inspiring as it is treacherous, the perfect allegory for cultivating a healthy mindset for navigating the modern world. Much like life, Alaska is defined by its immeasurable beauty, but it's also ruthless and unforgiving. It owes you nothing, and it's impossible to survive without resilience, sacrifice, and respect for your surroundings. The album explores themes of preservation, perseverance, and most importantly, community, because none of us can make it in a place like this on our own. John says of the song Mush that, quote, the repeated line, we can be family, pushes against isolation, reaching for something solid. This is a repeating theme on the record. Build a life, support your people, buy land, and grow something lasting. The message is simple. Don't give up, want more, and fight for it. End quote. The lyrics on the record focus on vivid pastoral images while also being thoughtfully cryptic, expressing grief, heartache, and the existential challenge of finding meaning in a world that feels like it's constantly on the brink of disaster. But it's also poignantly personal and meditative, asserting a life affirming message that not all is lost yet, and that together we can continue to fight and preserve what we still have. Father Gun is a perfect finale, a song that's difficult to analyze because it doesn't seem to offer any answers, which is often the reality of life. It features the lines, everything's all right inside my world, I feel nothing. It's vague, wide open to interpretation, but I think it alludes to the idea that we can only control our response to the wayward chaos around us, and that the pursuit of answers in life often leads to more questions, and that the only real truth is that in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. The album opens with the track Denali, fades in on grinding, fluttering synths that carry a dark, heavy tone. Chaotic horns enter the mix as the song continues to unfold, with driving percussion rolling in abruptly to shift the trajectory of the song. Everything plays in lo-fi. A reverberating single-note riff ushers in a second guitar with chugging heavy metal action that disappears for just a second to get the track going. Then squelching lead guitar takes us into the first verse. The texture's all mellow to start, but they begin to build back with John's signature voice as the track progresses. I love the chaotic heavy metal bridge between the breezy psychedelic verses. There's just lots of excellent nuanced texture, particularly the horns on this song, and it's a great indication of what this album experience is about to be like. Your second track is entitled Pitman Ralliers. This thing comes out just full scorched earth punk rock with a hardcore recitative vocal. The next segment is minimal and jarring, with massive distorted crashes of instrumentation hitting around the hook, burning down. I don't know if I've ever heard John or the band do anything quite like this. It evolves into a heavy nu metal groove, and I love the lines, lightning raining from the sky, down on us, we have become the kindling. Coda features industrial and new wave influenced synth play that feels a bit gothic as well. And I just love how this transitions right into your third track, Angoon. Opens with a riff that's built on a Middle Eastern guitar scale, just playing right off those buoyant synths at the end of Pitman Ralliers. Soft brush percussion emerges with sporadic synth play and additional guitar textures. It all fades to explode into a high energy chorus that rocks out with grunge energy, but the hushed production gives it a gentle impact. It's a really good example of just how adventurous and mostly successful the production is. The second verse features numerous additional textures in comparison to the first, with the horns being my favorite, and then the hook, All I See I Defend, No Surrender, takes us into a solo. It finishes with everything dropping out, except for the opening riff in the line, Fallen, Crawl to the Park, and Watch Me Fallen, reincorporating the synths for the end of Pitman Ralliers, and finishing with nothing but an echoey vocal of Feelin' That I'm All Alone. I just really love the continuity, the way that the music and everything is just blending at this point. Your fourth track is entitled Kinnick, fades in on a supple riff with thick texture that sounds like a bass but could be a guitar. Kind of reminds me of The Cure meets A Perfect Circle a little bit. The snare does an extended roll to usher in a track that really has that great combination of gothic rock, post-punk, and new wave. The verses are minimal and airy and dark, but also weightless with a tinge of shoegaze. Layers of subtle electronic textures and vocal harmonies give the chorus a bit more energy, but overall this thing remains fairly mellow and hypnotic until about the halfway mark, where it takes a shift into harder rock terrain with big drums and lots of fuzzy, distorted guitar play and a big refrain of "You've been lonely long enough to know it hurts." It's a great line, and so is "Still Sinking Industrial Society and futures were no fantasy. Your fifth track is your title track. Shish is going to open with what sounds like a pinched Japanese vocal through a vocoder before a heavy bass lick quickly changes the mood. This is brief, shifting suddenly into a verse driven by bass drum and the pinched vocal element that works a few bars before ushering in a groovy rock track with pixie-style guitars, thick bass, and lots of vocal play. At about the minute and 45-second mark, it takes another wild shift into a pop rock track with punk undertones. It's light and minimal, and I dig the fluttering guitars that return the track to its opening state with a guitar solo, but it does continue to make lots of shifts, complemented by nuance, and finishing on the refrain, "Ain't got no future, electric loser, gun in my hand." Fluttering guitar and soft rhythm fade to finish. It's definitely a wild standout of a track, as it should be, being the title track. Mush is your sixth track. It's got this folky arpeggiated guitar that comes out of the gate before a drum roll introduces sharp, fuzzy guitar and blistering rhythm on an aggressive, poppy track. Verses resort to minimal lo-fi style to begin, bursting into hi-fi and working back and forth as the track progresses. It has an overall feel of pop punk combined with alternative and garage influences. The song descends into distorted chaos with the hook, "I'm on the edge," and moves into a serene segment led by arpeggiated electric guitar and the coda, exploding in the last 10 seconds or so to finish. Your seventh track is entitled Tyonic. Lo-fi vocals, light electric guitar, and hi-hat rhythm take this one to work. Got the vocal harmonies that beckon the song's development with droning synths and a lead electric guitar that makes for very easy listening on this one. A little breakbeat takes over right around the minute and 15-second mark to open up a furious track. It is just another big shift. There are numerous moments where the intensity pulls back, but it goes full throttle after opening up extremely mellow until there's about a minute left. It mellows briefly to open up a coda that finishes just as hard as that main mid segment. Your eighth track is entitled, I think, Cookinakers, I believe is how you say that. I couldn't find it out. Got another lo-fi drum intro that leads this one out, though. Jazzy horns that bring some soulful flavor to it. The track takes an immediate shift into a peaceful groove with thick bass, breezy guitar, and airy vocals, but this is short-lived with the raw energy of the guitar that emerges. It's the sounds of indie folk mixed with the raw energy of distorted alternative guitars. The track playfully moves back and forth between segments of gentle repose and raw, grungy guitar, but even the unbridled moments remain charmingly subdued on this one. The track drifts into an easy listening coda with great horns, harmonies, and the refrain, "Dry your eyes, girl, no more crying, believing that you're happy now." Your ninth and penultimate track is entitled Tanana. The penultimate track fades in on a gentle, bubbly synth and light electric guitar before the beat kicks in to start the first verse. It maintains a lo-fi feel until the music cuts out sharply for a second to usher in a chorus that brings everything into hi-fi. I love this psychedelic, kind of like Beatlesque feel mixed with like the funky Stevie Wonder soul sound. Like, it's a great combination. The track indulges in a solo of swirling guitar textures and a cleaner lead that finishes in the back half. And it's one of the quicker tracks, one of the hotter tracks on the record, but it has brilliant energy, and I love it in its penultimate place. And it leads into your final track, Father Gun. Opens with an ominous fade-in on sci-fi synths that take an interesting shift into lighter territory, but before cutting out abruptly into an avant-garde track combining post-punk and jazz. There are frenetic horns, sinewy guitar, and energetic percussion that all leads into just a raucous segment to usher in the first verse. The production dips into subdued terrain that borders on lo-fi, with fluttering effects and panning effects as well that make it really fun in the headphones. This is just a dope, high-energy closer that moves through numerous experimental highs and lows, capturing the feeling of the bewilderment that accompanies pondering the world and existence. This album was a lot more than I expected, and in all of the right ways. There's so much going on as far as the experimental action, the just crazy shifts that these songs will take at any given second. They do it unexpectedly. I mentioned the Pixies earlier, but I feel like there's a lot of that just, quiet loud that's influencing this record, especially with the production. And I mean, for all the experimentation, I feel like from time to time, like there's going to be misses on a record like this, but I feel like overall, this thing hits all the marks. It is extremely well executed, exceeding all of my expectations. And I was genuinely surprised. Like I had a feeling that we would get something a little more adventurous with the band leaving Atlantic and, with John starting his own label, again, moving into that independent arena. But this thing is wild. And I definitely think it's one of my favorite records of the year. Like I'm just so pleased with how brave and how adventurous he was, and especially because it really does feel like it has been a long time. They've made great music for the last decade plus, but this really feels like where the band should be. And I'm loving that about this. I'm going to give this thing an 8.5 out of 10. I think that the future for this band with the independent journey that they're about to take is very exciting, and I look forward to future records. I hope you all enjoy this record. I hope you find this review helpful as well. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel. If you're feeling generous, drop a super chat. All of that is very helpful in getting me to blow this project up in 2025. Please stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews, and we will see you next time on the Beat Sessions.